I always knew Karen was a menace, but I never expected to come home one day and find my entire lawn replaced with concrete. The moment I pulled into my driveway, I slammed on the brakes, my jaw dropping as I stared at what used to be a lush green yard. Instead, I was greeted by a sea of dull, gray pavement stretching from my porch to the sidewalk. Welcome to Karen's Daily. Before we begin this story, please like the video and subscribe so we can continue making videos like this one. I threw my car into park and stepped out, still trying to process what I was looking at. My beautiful lawn, gone. My carefully planted flower beds, gone. Even the small decorative garden gnome I'd put by the mailbox, gone. It was as if my front yard had been erased overnight. And then, right on cue, Karen appeared, arms crossed, a smug expression plastered on her face. "Oh, good, you're home," she chirped, as if she had just delivered a thoughtful gift instead of committing full-scale property destruction. "I took the liberty of fixing your landscaping issue. You should be thanking me." I blinked, completely dumbfounded. "What the hell are you talking about, Karen? What landscaping issue?" She sighed dramatically, like she was dealing with an ungrateful child. "Your yard was an eyesore. The grass was uneven, the colors clashed with the rest of the neighborhood, and it looked, well, unkempt. So, as the head of the HOA, I made an executive decision to upgrade it to something more uniform. Now everything matches perfectly." I could feel my eye twitch. "Karen, this is my property. You can't just decide to rip up my lawn without my permission." She waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, don't be so dramatic, it's just landscaping. Besides, this way you won't have to mow anymore. I did you a favor." I looked at her like she had completely lost her mind, because clearly she had. "Karen, do you have any idea what you've done? Do you even realize how expensive this is going to be to fix? You destroyed my yard, and where the hell did you even get the money to do this?" Karen puffed up her chest. "Oh, we used HOA funds. It's all covered under community improvements. You should really read the guidelines." I ran a hand over my face, trying to suppress the urge to yell. "Karen, you do realize that using HOA funds without homeowner approval is illegal, right? And did it ever occur to you that there are laws about altering someone else's property without consent?" She scoffed. "Laws? Oh, please, it's just some concrete. Besides, the board agreed it was necessary." I narrowed my eyes. "Did the entire board vote on this, or did you just make this decision yourself?" Karen hesitated just a second too long. "Well, I knew they would agree, so I just moved forward with the plan." I took a deep breath, my anger simmering at a dangerous level. "Karen, you've made a huge mistake, and I promise you, I'm going to make sure you regret this." Her smug smile faltered. "Oh, don't be ridiculous. What are you going to do? Call the police? Sue the HOA? This is all within my authority." I stared at the concrete disaster before me. She had no idea that she had just violated multiple state and property laws, and that I was about to make her pay for every inch of it. I stormed inside, grabbing my laptop and pulling up my home's property documents. I had every legal right to my land, and there wasn't a single HOA clause that allowed them to alter it without my approval. Karen had overstepped in the worst way possible. As I scrolled through state laws on property damage and unauthorized land alterations, I found exactly what I was looking for. There were strict regulations in place for modifications that affected water drainage and soil stability. Pouring concrete over my lawn without proper approval? That could get the entire HOA sued. The next morning, I wasn't the only one fuming. My neighbor, Mr. Reynolds, stormed over with his phone in hand, his voice dripping with rage. "Did Karen concrete over your lawn too?" I frowned. "Wait, she did this to you too?" He shoved his phone at me, showing me a picture of his front yard, just as wrecked as mine, now a dull slab of gray. "I got home last night to find my yard just like yours," she told me the same thing. "Community improvements. I've lived here for 20 years, and this is the most insane thing I've ever seen." I clenched my jaw. She's using HOA funds for unauthorized modifications. This isn't just annoying, it's illegal. Mr. Reynolds nodded. "I'm calling my lawyer today. I suggest you do the same." Karen thought she was unstoppable, but she had just declared war on the wrong homeowners. She had no clue that within a few days, she was going to regret every bit of concrete she poured. The next morning, I wasted no time. Before even grabbing my morning coffee, I was on the phone with a lawyer. Mr. Reynolds had already beaten me to it, apparently calling in the early hours of the morning to get legal advice. As I explained my situation to the attorney, I could hear the mix of disbelief and intrigue in his voice. "She really did all of this without your consent?" he asked, almost sounding amused. "Yep, tore up my yard and replaced it with concrete, claimed it was an HOA improvement, whatever that means," I said, pacing my kitchen. The lawyer sighed. That's a blatant property rights violation. She's overstepped the HOA's authority in a massive way. You could take legal action, not just for damages, but potentially for fraud if she used HOA funds improperly. I'd suggest we start with a formal cease and desist and move forward from there. By the time I hung up, I had a plan. I wasn't the only one affected. Mr. Reynolds and I agreed to call a neighborhood meeting to see how many other homeowners had fallen victim to Karen's unauthorized improvements. That evening we met in Reynolds' backyard, and I was shocked by how many people showed up. At least 10 families stood around, all fuming about the unwanted modifications to their properties. One woman, Mrs. Patel, was nearly in tears. "She ripped out my flower beds. My mother planted those with me when I was a child," she cried. Another neighbor, Greg, was livid. "She paved over my sprinklers. Do you have any idea how much it's going to cost to fix that?" It became clear that Karen's reign of terror had gone far beyond just my yard. She had overstepped her authority on multiple properties, and no one had been consulted beforehand. "She thinks she's untouchable," Reynolds said, "but we're about to prove her wrong." By the following morning, our group had gathered enough evidence to file an official complaint. We had documented every altered property, every destroyed garden, and every unauthorized expense. With the help of my lawyer, we submitted it to the county's property board and filed a lawsuit against the HOA. Karen, however, had no idea what was coming. Later that day, I saw her strutting down the street, clipboard in hand, like she had just completed her greatest achievement. I wasted no time. "Karen," I called, making my way toward her. She turned, already smirking as if she expected me to thank her. "Oh, you're welcome. I assume you've finally come around to see what a vast improvement I've made to the neighborhood," she said sweetly. I handed her a thick envelope. "Actually, this is for you. Consider it a formal notice." She frowned, peeling the envelope open. As her eyes scanned the contents, the color drained from her face. What is this?" "A lawsuit and a formal cease and desist. Turns out altering private property without consent is very illegal. Oh, and using HOA funds without homeowner approval, even worse." Karen's jaw dropped. "You can't do this. I was only acting in the best interest of the community." I folded my arms. "You were acting in your own best interest, and now you're about to learn what happens when you break the law." Behind me, several neighbors watched, nodding in agreement. Karen was finally realizing that her unchecked authority was about to crumble beneath her. Karen's face twisted in disbelief as she clutched the lawsuit papers, her grip tightening as if she could crush the consequences away. "You can't be serious," she screeched, her voice high and shrill. "This is harassment. I was improving the neighborhood." I sighed, shaking my head. "Karen, you poured concrete over multiple people's yards without their permission. You destroyed private property. That's not improving the neighborhood. That's breaking the law." Behind me, more neighbors had gathered, arms crossed, murmuring in agreement. Mr. Reynolds stepped forward, his tone firm. "We're taking this to court, Karen. You don't get to bulldoze over people's rights just because you think you're in charge." Karen's smug facade cracked, but she wasn't about to go down quietly. "Fine, I'll fight this. The HOA has the power to enforce landscaping standards, and you'll see the judge side with me." She stormed off, but the damage was already done. The lawsuit had been filed, and the legal system was now in motion. Over the next few weeks, the county board got involved, and the situation quickly spiraled out of Karen's control. Investigators began digging into the HOA's finances, and what they uncovered was worse than anyone expected. Not only had Karen illegally used HOA funds to finance the concrete debacle, but she had also been misappropriating funds for years. Luxury dinners, personal vacations, and expensive home renovations, all paid for with money that was supposed to go toward community upkeep. The county audit sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. "We thought she was just power-hungry," Mrs. Patel muttered. "Turns out she's a full-blown fraud." With mounting evidence, the lawsuit took a devastating turn for Karen. The HOA board, desperate to save themselves, voted her out unanimously. She was stripped of her position, and new leadership took over, promising transparency and accountability, but Karen's troubles didn't. The authorities had enough evidence to charge her with embezzlement, property destruction, and fraud. When officers arrived at her house with an arrest warrant, she tried to argue, tried to scream that it was all a misunderstanding, but it was too late. She was led away in handcuffs, her reign of terror officially over. News of her arrest spread fast. The local papers ran headlines like, "HOA tyrant taken down by homeowners," and "corrupt HOA president faces jail time." It was all anyone could talk about for weeks. And as for our yards, the new HOA leadership made it their first priority to repair the damage. With Karen gone, they reached out to the city, secured funding, and had professionals come in to remove the concrete and restore our lawns. It took time, but eventually the neighborhood returned to what it had been before Karen's reign of terror. One afternoon, as I watered my newly restored grass, Mr. Reynolds walked over, hands in his pockets. "Feels good, doesn't it?" he said, looking around at the vibrant green yards returning to life. I nodded. "Yeah, we took her down, and we got our neighborhood back." He smirked. "And Karen? Well, I hear she's having a real hard time adjusting to her new accommodations." I chuckled. "Maybe they'll let her pour some concrete in the prison yard."